Danny Segura for MMA Junkie. I'm here in San Antonio with Ryan Hall, UFC featherweight jiu-jitsu specialist, who's here helping Corey Sandhagen. Now, we're not going to talk about Corey Sandhagen fight just because it's hours away, but I want to talk to you about your career, because we haven't gotten a bit of an update. I know you update your socials and stuff, but we haven't gotten one on the site. So let's just start off here. Last time you fought was December 2021, right?
Yes.
So it's been over a year. What have you been up to?
It's oh, thanks. To be honest, it's a bit of a saga. You know, I had when after so I kind of started getting I spent about 10 years not being injured, and then I got just a couple bad luck, like getting fallen on a couple times, like tore a hip flexor really badly prior to my first fight in 2021, and had like a really bad tear in the bottom of my foot. So a lot of things started to add up. Broke my hand in that first fight in 2021, and basically went through, finished that fight, had that fight in December, and then went into the next year. I was going to do ADCC, going to do some competitions, and I'd actually just agreed to a fight in August of 2022, but unfortunately got fallen on, tore my ACL, tore my meniscus, and long and short of it, it's been 16 surgeries since. But we're on the back end of it. I just had one on Tuesday, but it's fortunately going to go in the right direction. So I'm looking forward to being back healthy, feeling better than I have in a very long time, and looking forward to competing again soon.
Oh man, that sucks. First of all, I'm sorry to hear. Yeah, I've torn my meniscus before, so like I know what that's like. Sucks. I'm sure the other stuff is it worse or not? What would you say is like the toughest injury?
The ACL was really bad, and I got a septic infection as a result of that. The doctors acted in a really obnoxious way, also, which I didn't really appreciate. I ended up in the hospital for a week after being ignored for a few days when I had a boiling infection. Exactly. Thank you, healthcare system. And then anyway, I had to have a PICC line put in and all this other stuff. That was never again. But other than that, that was by far the worst. But other things have kind of come along. So I had 3 surgeries on my left foot, 2 on my right, just fixing a lot of little things from like years of kicking stuff and getting yanked on. And but it's going a lot better, and no complaints.
Okay. So it seems like, is there any more surgeries, I guess, scheduled or in? Okay, so it looks like you've addressed all the injuries and whatnot.
That's the hope. So there was like I had 2 surgeries after my ACL surgery just to clean out the infection in my knee. They were like emergency. And I've had 4 surgeries on my right elbow since October, trying to get one of the things done. Just kind of some bad luck stuff. But I think we're good from now forward. And so I'm just rehabbing my knee, getting everything good, and then looking forward to competing at Polaris in June. It'll be a grappling match, and that'll be a good test of the body to see how we are about getting back into UFC.
Yeah. Do you know who you're competing against?
Yeah, I'm competing against a very tough Welsh grappler from ADCC named Ash Williams. So it'll be a good challenge and a good opportunity.
Nice. And your plan is to return to MMA at some point.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, that's MMA is all I care about. I want to come back and I want to continue. You know, I spent years being in the rankings and then got dropped for inactivity because of bad luck and people not being willing to fight. Had a bad luck loss, and you know, could have done some things better, but breaking your hand, getting headbutted, having all sorts of injuries before the fight, that was frustrating, but managed to end 2021 on a good note. And I just want to get back to pushing forward and growing and learning, and you know, moving back to fight the best guys I can.
Nice. More or less, do you know when that would be, or at least like when your body would be ready for a return?
My hope is to compete around realistically like August, September,
Okay.
and then try to get into this year. You know, I said that last year, so but barring you know, getting hit by a meteor, we probably shouldn't sit this close together because if a helicopter falls on me, it's going to hit you too.
Yeah.
But
we should cut this short.
yeah, it's been real. I'm going to go, but it's yeah, so hopefully we'll be good, but right now I'm just excited to be here helping Corey get ready for a, you know, a great challenge against Chito Vera, and I'm excited to see the fight tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be a fantastic fight. And let me ask you this: like, has this process with the injuries or whatever, and all these like health issues that you've addressed now, has it reshaped the way that you perceive your MMA career? Have you like drawn new goals? I don't know. What do you want to get out of this return?
Well, I mean, I got to be honest. This is a heck of an empathy-building experience, you know, because I couldn't walk for a giant portion of this last year. I haven't trained in 11 months. I've been through the ups and downs psychologically quite a bit, to be honest. I'd be lying if I said any different. But you know, I know that many other people experience far worse, and I feel very fortunate I was able to use some of this time to help out some friends, my friend Ton Lee, Corey, his fights. So it's been nice to have some positive outlets to help other people. But this has been an opportunity to fix a lot of nagging injuries that you get over 18 years of combat sports at a high level, and just kind of things that I never would have addressed had it not been for the big injuries. Because if someone said before you're going to be out for 2 months, I go, no way. And if you're going to be out for 8 months, yeah, whatever. What's 2 months inside of that period? So it's been an opportunity to fix that, but it's kind of given me some more perspective about things that other people go through. And then on top of that, it's just another reminder about how much luck plays in anything. I mean, it's a lot of the times how we feel about ourselves, how we feel about our situation, other people, comes down to not just are you good enough to win, but can you get the opportunity? Can you stay healthy? I mean, we remember, there have been fighters that, kind of come and gone in the UFC. They're phenomenal. That easily could have been champion, but the stars didn't align. So I just want to make the most out of the time that I have and help my friends, but also come back. And I'm thankful for every minute.
Yeah, for sure. And as far as like your comeback, like, do you eye the rankings? Do you eye a belt? Do you just eye like nice names to add to your resume? Like, what exactly, or are you just gonna kind of feel it out and see what's up?
Obviously I have a lot to grow on and a lot to learn and a lot to continue to develop. But I mean, I could have easily been fighting in the top 5 2 years ago. It's just people wouldn't accept the fight. Again, I could have lost to any of those guys, but there's not a single one of them that I couldn't beat. And the people that I've competed against and the people that I've trained with would tell you the same thing. And but at the same time, every fight that I've won, I could have potentially lost. These guys are all good. So I would just say I want to push forward as far as I possibly can for as long as I can. I will fight for as long as I can possibly do it safely. And of course, that means the rankings and going as far as possible. But the reality is that, when people talk about stuff like the belt, it's first off, that's a mile away from me at the moment. But beyond that, the stars have to align. People have to be willing to fight. I had 3 fights in a row thanks to the pandemic, getting fallen on once, a hip injury, and then a ridiculous medical thing, just fall through in a row through no fault of my own. And that I'm sure that's happened to many other people. So I would just say I'll take each opportunity and each experience as they come individually. And if we're fortunate enough to put together a string of those, you never know where it'll take you.
Yeah, for sure. And as far as any names, I mean, media always asks that. I don't know is there any names in the division that you see and it's like, at some point before I retire, I'd like to face this person, face this challenge.
Absolutely. I would, of course, want a rematch with Ilya Saporia. There's no question. Obviously, he's been doing very well, so that'll be a little bit of a ways away. But in the meantime, we'd love to compete against somebody like Bryce Mitchell, who's a very good fighter. Other people like that. There's anybody that would push me forward and be a big challenge, and all of those people would. So I will look forward to being a heck of a lot more healthy than I've been in a long time, and continuing to take the time that I've been off to do my best to improve. And working with guys like Corey is really helping my striking and my movement a lot, and also my feet not being in pieces I'm looking forward to being able to go back and move like I was when I fought Darren Elkins.
Yeah, and let me ask you this: for now that you've kind of been on the outside and just like helping out people and just outside looking in, I just want to kind of pick your brain on like the overall level of jiu-jitsu that we're seeing in the UFC. Have you picked up any trends that you feel like are kind of what's kind of like what's popular in the grappling in the UFC, or what works and what doesn't?
I think like the principles and the fundamentals behind everything are the same, whether they're jiu-jitsu, mixed martial arts, judo, wrestling. But at the same time, it's neat to see the development. I think obviously people's submission ability they're becoming more dangerous, more diverse. Again, it's tough. It's mixed martial arts, so it's tough to be super high level at everything. And then even if you are very, very good in one area of jiu-jitsu, it's difficult to be very, very good in all, much less good in all, and then also a great striker. So I would say it kind of goes person by person, but it is neat to see different styles of leg attacks, like the knee bar, like the Suloev stretch, that Zabit was able to use and Aljo has been able to use. Coming in, people's understanding of back control and the body lock is significantly improved. So I think it's really neat to see the way that it's evolving, but I think there's a lot more room for continued improvement for everybody.
Yeah. What would you say it's like an area that's lacking, like maybe that one that like could be taken advantage of, but that it's not being?
It's just my opinion. I mean, and there's many, of course, but I would say control in general. General body positioning and control is something that takes a long, long, long time to become very, very good at. And as a result, I think a lot of times, maybe people are a little younger in their career, they haven't gotten to that point. But it's the same, in my opinion. It's similar to boxing, like the ability to move and effectively in the ring without being hit, but also without running away, and that takes a long time to kind of do that. It's a little bit it's just a later development skill. There's not a lot of Wonder Boys running around. There's not a lot of Corys. There's not a lot of Adesanyas, and that's because it's not easy to get to that level. So I think that overall control is something that will come. But, I think for the guys that have been able to demonstrate that, the Damian Maias, the Obviously Khabib, Islam Makhachev, I mean, like these guys are fantastic, and we see through their application of body positioning just how powerful that is.
Yeah, and something that's been really interesting in the last few years, there's been kind of like a very open conversation about scoring. And one of the biggest criteria now, and I feel like sometimes it's a little bit, I don't know how I feel about this. I feel like it's maybe a little bit overpowered, but it's damage, right? And then I feel like that does take away a little bit from the grappling, the control. Like, maybe we've seen in fights like a combination rocking somebody for a split second can completely override what was done, for 4 minutes and 30 seconds. What are your thoughts on the scoring criteria? Do you think a fight is being scored properly?
Well, I think reasonable people can disagree, and as you said, every now and then, like I get a hold of you for 4 minutes, and then you land the biggest right hand in the world that clearly has me hurt, and you go, man, it's hard not to score that, and hard not to say, like I usually ask myself, who would I rather be? Like for instance, I think Corey's fight against T.J. Dillashaw, another great fighter, was a very close one where that was kind of emblematic of the issue. In my opinion, Corey should have gotten the decision, but I can also understand why under this criteria, someone could give it to TJ. But I would just say, like, in my opinion, control matters. Damage obviously matters. Control is meant to be a means of like transit on your way to damage, but at the same time, if you take like a look at Aljamain Sterling, he'll end up on someone's back in the first 30 seconds of a round and stay there. I think if they were to get him off and hit him with one shot, I think he's still winning that round. I think that it's damage is cool, but it's one of those things that when you're in the ring for real and you recognize your health is on the line and everything like that, control is king, and that's where we see our greatest fighters in combat sports history. Not just the ones that we love to watch, but like our greatest ones are always phenomenal technicians and tacticians, and I think that demonstrates, in my opinion, as long as you're doing it without running away, the highest quality of martial arts.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting. Like I don't know what the right answer is on to like how to properly exactly like define who's winning around, right? But it is a good point, right? Like if we were in a real fight, right? Like there would be no time limit, so that control would carry on into like something else, right? Like
Think about how good Damian Maia is and was, and how much even more successful he would have been had you another guy with phenomenal control. Gunnar Nelson is another guy, but how much more? Imagine if every single round Damian didn't get to start back on the feet; he started back on your back. Oh my God! Whatever he would have won, it would have been more. Yeah. So it's like I don't doubt that one bit, and he could still become champion, anyway. But like you said, he's fighting an uphill battle, and I think that's an interesting thing. Same kind of thing. You look at Khabib, and you're like, man, this guy gets somebody down. What if they restarted with him on top? So as you say, the rules have such an influence in the outcome, and a lot of times, like there'll be a mechanic like that happens in between rounds, and then someone gets clipped in round two. And then you go, okay, but hey, if they hadn't restarted that position, that never would have happened.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing.
yeah, it certainly is. It's quite interesting. And back to the jiu-jitsu, looking at just like fighters, is there any jiu-jitsu style or any fighter in particular that you've picked up and taken notice of? Like, hey, look, this guy's doing really cool stuff.
Oh man, I mean, there's people who are doing great stuff all the time, and obviously, there's fantastic jiu-jitsu artists in the UFC, Kron Gracie, like Gilbert Durinho Burns. I don't want to leave people out by trying to list everyone, but long and short of there's many. But Roman Dolidze, like I'm probably pronouncing his name wrong. The Georgian guy.
Yeah.
How he finished Jack Hermanson, that was brilliant. That was beautiful skill. I think there's no question that Beneil Dariush has been criminally underrated for a long time, and Gunnar Nelson is one of the best fighters in the world. He just hasn't. Had as much activity, but it's like if you look at his resume, you look at how he's doing things, you look at the people he's lost to, and how you want to see impressive jiu-jitsu. That's a great place to start.
Yeah, I would have liked to made this question maybe a few months ago, but what did you think of Charles Oliveira's rise? Because it was like, yeah, he was finishing people and like piecing people up with the hands, but it was like the jiu-jitsu was what got people so scared of. Like he would just lay there on his back and people would just be frightened to get on him.
Yeah, I mean, Charles is amazing. His finishing ability, his mechanics on all of his submissions are fantastic. It's, at least for me, there's someone I look at and I learn from. In my mind, and it's easy to say in hindsight, but in my mind, the question against Makhachev was, is Islam good enough that if he hurts Charles, he can follow him down? Because everyone else kept dropping Charles every single time in his fights because he's really good, but he's very aggressive. Yeah. And if you don't stop him, he'll kill you. But at the same time, like you can't be that forward without being hittable, and or at least it's not easy unless you're Julio Cesar Chavez, the first one, not the second one. And anyway, I would just say, like, Yeah, I think the power of his jiu-jitsu is amazing because it was simultaneously a weapon and also a circle of protection. Like people didn't want to touch him, but I think that was an interesting thing about Makhachev was his level of grappling and ability. It allowed him to behave differently in that fight, not just in terms of swinging, but going like, oh, I can actually capitalize if I do hurt you. Because if you can hurt me and capitalize, and if I hurt you, I can't capitalize. It's hard for me to win. You know, it's interesting.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, his jiu-jitsu was a treat to watch. That title run was just fantastic. Like 3 or 4 fights, it was crazy.
His finishing is like you watch his finishing against like against I mean there's so many people, but it's like I thought great examples were against his fight against David Tamer. It was on my season of Ultimate Fighter. It was great. Tamer's a tough fighter, and the way just the speed with which he slides into some of his guillotine arm triangle style stuff is just something else, and the powerful mechanics he uses is, and it's worth watching.
Yeah, for sure. He's fighting Dariush, who's another stud on the ground. How do you think that? What do you think that looks like?
It's hard to say, man. Like it's really hard to say. I'm a terrible fight predictor because and the reality is that it could go either way. And I think one of the huge problems that we see in mixed martial arts is small sample sizes, right? So it's like you fight somebody once and people act like that would be the outcome all the time. So that's whereas in baseball, basketball, soccer, whatever, the teams play each other 10 times a year. So anyway, I would just say it's hard to. I'd be very curious. I think Charles is overall maybe more dangerous than Beneil, like in terms of like zap gotcha. But at the same time, Benny, I think his grappling level is going to be a similar, weapon against Charles that Islam's was. Maybe again the style's a little bit different, but I don't think Beneil is going to be hesitant to grapple anybody, which means that if he does manage to tag Charles, he can follow up. And also, if Charles gets a hold of him, he's going to be more likely to be able to protect himself. But, man, I'm just going to watch that with great interest because those guys are fantastic.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch because Charles is certainly more aggressive, more dangerous on the ground as far as you mentioned. But I feel like control-wise and patience, and kind of just being able to slow down a bit, I feel like Dariush has that.
I agree with you entirely, and I think that's going to be. I guess this tale of the fight is going to go who tells the story right. Yeah. What is it? Whose fight does it look like? Almost, yeah. Does this look like a Benny fight, or does this look like a Charles fight? But it's really cool because Charles will make the fight his fight. He will, if you don't stop him, he's going to get you. Yeah. And I'm always like really impressed by people that fight that way. It's just neat to see.
Yeah, for sure. And something interesting that you mentioned was that people think that, okay, you fight and whatever the outcome is, that's just the way it goes all the time, right? But like you fight 10 times and it might go quite differently, right? And that's something that Corey Sandhagen said when I asked him at the media day. He was saying like, something I'm realizing is that you only get one crack usually at these guys. Like maybe you get a rematch down the line, but you don't rematch every single person you fight. So it's like kind of just making the most of it. Is that something he told you or vice versa or something you guys figured out both?
I think it's something that we discussed. I feel very lucky to be friends with Corey, and he's a cerebral, great fighter. I feel, like other friends and people that have helped me out, with perspective and information. Faraz Zahabi, Greg Jackson, Kenny Florian, so many of the great coaches and training partners have been fortunate to have over the course of time. But I think that one of the things that makes Corey so special is his ability to maintain perspective while also maintaining his focus and his belief. It's easy to almost have so much perspective that you're almost detached, or so much belief and focus that you buy your own nonsense, and then you do that fundamental attribution thing, which is anytime I win, I always would win, and anytime I lose, I got unlucky. Yeah. And you go, all right, well, that's convenient. Yeah. So anyway, it's an interesting thing, but I would say, like, as you said, you just make the most of every opportunity. I feel like in many ways, many people who are very successful in the UFC under certain circumstances could easily be out of the organization or could be champion if they had the right set of things happen because they have the skills. And are you fortunate enough to get it done on the night? And same kind of thing. Some people get sick that day, and some people get sick that day and still win. But man, it makes it harder. So it's an interesting thing. But to come back, I think one of the things that makes Corey so dangerous and so unique as a fighter, or special as a fighter, is his ability to be reflective and to consider, the things that he is and the things that he could do better, and see situations for what they are. And I think that's a very uncommon quality in a high-level performer, because it incorporates an external vision while also still maintaining focus. And I think that he's using that to develop his skills and also to fight well. So I'm excited for tomorrow, and no matter the outcome, I know it's going to push him forward.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be a fantastic fight. Well, Ryan, I don't want to take any more time away from you, but best of luck in whatever is left of the rehab and sort of your health. And looking forward to see you in August, right?
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.